The autumn wind, accompanied by Wong Lin's voice, seemed reluctant to leave the courtyard, lingering in endless cycles. The story of the vermilion bird star youth, though filled with twists, carried a tinge of sorrow that blended with the autumn atmosphere, deepening the melancholy. Tears had long since flowed from Qing Yi's eyes, though silently, as she listened. When Wongping had heard half of it, he lowered his head, and his expression was unreadable. Afterwards, he stayed with the child here on Ranyun's star. Wong Lin finished his story, took a large sip from the wine jug, and gazed up at the sky without speaking further. Qing Yi stared blankly at the father and son before her. An indescribable emotion stirred within her. Instinctively, she took Wongping's hand, only to immediately feel the coldness of his touch. The courtyard was deathly quiet. After a long while, Wongping's hoarse voice softly broke the silence. "It's a beautiful story, father. I'm tired." He stood up and walked towards the side room at the far end of the courtyard. Qing Yi bowed to Wong Lin and followed. The courtyard was left with only Wong Lin, who sat silently, staring at the distant horizon. The chill of the autumn wind grew sharper as night fell, swirling around and lifting fallen leaves, which fluttered far away. It was unclear how much time had passed before Wong Lin sighed softly, lowering his head and lifting the wine jug to his lips, only to find it empty. That night, Wongping couldn't sleep. Sitting in his room, he gazed at the bright moon in the sky, his eyes full of pain. Qing Yi sat beside him, holding his hand, wordlessly keeping him company. "So, this is the answer I've been waiting for over 60 years. The pain in Wongping's eyes deepened. "I was a grudge infant, refined by my mother." Wongping lowered his head, his face marked by deep bitterness and sorrow. The next morning, Wongping left, with Qing Yi following him all the way. Throughout, he never exchanged another word with his father, nor even glanced back. He left quietly at dawn, sitting silently in the carriage, disappearing into the distance from Qishui City. He didn't notice, at the moment of his departure, a pair of eyes watching silently as the carriage faded away, the gaze filled with the weight of time. Wong Lin stepped out of the room and sat quietly in the courtyard, gazing at the white clouds in the sky, murmuring, "Perhaps, one day, you will understand." Inside the carriage, Wongping sat, not knowing where he was headed. He stared ahead in a daze, feeling utterly exhausted, as if nothing in this world could inspire him to even look again. "Qing Yi, I'm so tired. Let's find a peaceful mountain village and live there," Wongping whispered. Qing Yi nodded, tenderness in her eyes. In a simple mountain village on the outskirts, Wongping and Qing Yi settled down, living a quiet life. Both were no longer young, and the years of their lives often flashed through Wongping's mind. His life had been ordinary for the first 19 years, followed by 8 years of turmoil, 25 years of war, and 10 years of reigning as a mortal sovereign. Though brief, the intensity of these experiences was far beyond what most could ever know. Yet, in the end, he returned to the starting point, back to simplicity. Every morning, he would wake up and carve wooden blocks in the courtyard. In the simplicity, there was warmth. During these times, Qing Yi would sit beside him, her eyes soft as she watched his carving knife work, cutting into the wood, one stroke at a time. "My father once said, carving must come from the heart. Only then can everything in your memories be captured by the knife and infused into the wood carving." Wongping gently blew on the wood carving in his hand, sending the shavings flying. Placing the carving on the ground, Wongping's eyes softened with nostalgia. He spoke in a low voice. "This was my father when he was young." The carving depicted Wong Lin as a youth, his eyes sharp and focused, hands behind his back, gazing at the heavens with a proud air that seemed to emanate from the figure. Years passed, and another 10 years went by. The passage of time could not erase the marks of reincarnation. Life and death were inescapable, following the course of the way of heaven. For ordinary people, 10 years might feel long, yet also brief. This paradox was the true experience of every mortal's heart. For Wong Lin, however, those 10 years felt both brief and long. His hair had turned gray, long and untended. His face had grown older. When he closed his eyes, it was as if he had entered the cycle of reincarnation. In these 10 years, his understanding of the way of heaven became clearer and more profound, not through intention, but through natural realization. It was as if the trees in the courtyard had withered, unable to escape reincarnation. But even as they died, new life began to emerge shortly after. In the cycle of life and death, change was everywhere. Previously, even if Wong Lin had seen it, he would not have been moved. Now, however, his heart was naturally drawn to the vitality he saw in every corner. The flowers at the corner of the wall fall year after year, yet they also bloom year after year. The clouds in the sky disperse day by day, yet they also reassemble day by day. It is as if, in this world, for every death, there is a birth, always maintaining a certain balance. If this is to be called cause and effect, then it is indeed contained within. Within the grand house of the Wang residence, only Wong Lin lives here. This, it seems, the surrounding neighbors have long grown accustomed to. On ordinary days, many children run here to play. At first, they were scared of Wong Lin, but as time passed, they realized that this old man was not scary at all. Gradually, this large house in the Wang residence became a place for children to play, and each day, watching these children, Wong Lin felt a peace in his heart. Grandchildren have their own blessings. What I should do, I have already done. What I should say, I have already said. Whether he can finally figure it out, it depends on Wongping himself. Wong Lin believed that the child he had raised had a heart as vast as the heavens. In this world, any obstacle could be overcome. 10 years passed, and Wongping had grown older. He had reached the twilight years of his life, yet the carving in his hands had never been put down. Father is right. Life is better when it's simple. If I had a choice, if there is a next life, I hope to live a simple life with Father in a secluded little mountain village. Wongping murmured. Beside him, Qingyi quietly watched Wongping and softly said, "Since you've already made up your mind, why not go and see him?" Wongping put down the statue of his father. This statue depicted Wong Lin from 10 years ago, sitting at the dining table, gently saying, "Let's eat." "Qingyi, you don't understand." Wongping's wisdom deepened as he aged. "In my heart, besides the matter of my mother, there is another question I dare not ask. I have a feeling, perhaps this is the true reason Father didn't want me to cultivate." A hint of sorrow appeared in Wongping's eyes. This sorrow resembled Wong Lin's, and he had already sensed something, but dared not confirm it. "Qingyi, I feel that I have reached the end of my life. Perhaps I don't have much time left. You, as a cultivator, will live longer than I. After my death, please take me to Father's side. As for you, you are free now. But no matter how much time passes, don't forget, in your life, there was once a reincarnation that belonged to me." Wongping's voice was calm, but carried a hint of resolution. Qingyi shivered. She was about to speak, but was interrupted by Wongping. "These years, you've suffered. As a cultivator, you could have changed your appearance, but for the sake of not making me feel lonely, you've gradually aged with me. I, Wongping, will never forget this kindness. If there's a next life, I will never forget you." Tears flowed from Qingyi's eyes. Her cultivation had been advanced by Wong Lin to the late nascent soul stage of perfection. 20 years ago, she had gained insight into the Tao by accompanying Wongping, and her Tao conception was that of unwavering affection. "Even the netherworld will accompany me," Qingyi whispered. "Cultivation, in my eyes, is like floating dust. I won't be an emotionless immortal. I only wish to be a person of emotion." Wongping stared blankly at Qingyi, sighed, and softly said, "Why go this far?" At this moment, in the starry sky, a bolt of lightning howled as it darted through the ravaged nebula. If one looked closely, they could see that the lightning was actually a gigantic beast. It appeared to be a qilin, but without horns, its entire body flashing with lightning. Indeed, a thunder beast. On the back of this thunder beast sat a middle-aged scholar. This person had profound cultivation and was utterly unfazed by the lightning that danced around his body. The lightning moved at an incredible speed, heading straight for the northern Luo heaven region. His target was very clear, Ranyun star in the northern Luo heaven region. 70 years ago, something unusual occurred on Illusion Star. The patriarch of the Phantom clan, who had reached the second step of cultivation, died, and a figure resembling a Thunder Immortal Palace emissary appeared. This event spread, gradually drawing the attention of the Thunder Immortal Palace. According to investigations, It seemed that this suspected Thunder Immortal Palace emissary had not left Renegade Star, so they had sent this man to investigate. The middle-aged man's cultivation had surpassed the first step of cultivation and had now reached the realm of indeficiency. He sat upon the Thunder Beast and entered the northern Luo Heaven region, not pausing for a moment, heading straight for Renegade Star. Someone actually dares to impersonate a Thunder Immortal Palace emissary? It's been a long time since anything like this happened. A cold smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face. As a Thunder Immortal Palace emissary, he held immense power. In the entire Luo Heavenly Star domain, aside from a few ancient cultivation families, almost no one dared to provoke the Thunder Immortal Palace. Let me, Thunder Daoist, the true Thunder Immortal Palace emissary, deal with this imposter. Don't think that just because you can use a few lightning-based divine abilities, you can impersonate my Thunder Immortal Palace. The true emissaries of the Thunder Immortal Palace have Thunder Beasts. Thunder Daoist placed his right hand on the head of the Thunder Beast and gently patted it. The Thunder Beast seemed to sense its master's pride and let out a roar, the rumbling sound of thunder echoing through the starry sky. The distance to Renegade Star grew shorter and shorter. Wongping, at the age of 72, felt the end of his life approaching. A year later, though his body remained healthy, he distinctly sensed that life was nearing its end. That winter, just as when Sun Tai had passed away, came swiftly. The heavy snow had blocked the roads early, leaving the villagers unable to go out, forcing them to stay by their families' sides and silently endure the cold season. The cold wind howled through the sky, as if carrying away one life after another that had reached its end, ushering them into the spring, as though in a cycle of reincarnation. This winter seemed colder than in previous years. The wind, mixed with snowflakes, felt even more biting at night. The simple houses, if they didn't light a warm stove, would be pierced by the icy gusts. In the western part of the village, a warm glow from a house's window reflected the firelight, offering a small measure of warmth. Yet, in the snowstorm, it seemed so insignificant. The wind howled in the surroundings, swirling in circles over the deep snow on the ground, lifting large clumps of snowflakes into the air. Even the livestock in the village curled up, trembling slightly, trying to resist the chill brought by the wind. Above, the sky was shrouded in darkness, with only the countless falling snowflakes that, after a long look, gave one a sense of disorientation. Wongping sat in his chair, holding a carving knife. With each stroke, he carved a memory of his life's end. What he was carving was still his father, though his father's face had grown even older. This year, Wongping often found himself dreaming of his childhood, recalling the bitter taste of the medicine he drank, which now, in memory, seemed somewhat sweet. This sweetness wasn't in the taste, but in the warmth of the memory. Qing Yi sat beside him, gazing at Wongping, her eyes filled with tenderness but also a trace of sorrow. The wind howled, coming from outside, as if trying to rush in and take away Wongping, who was at the end of his journey. After I die, burn these statues, Wongping said softly, looking at the last statue he was carving. It was a half-finished piece, and he was determined to complete it. On one side of the room was a large wooden rack, holding hundreds of statues, each one depicting Wong Lin. Some statues had a child standing beside them, smiling with satisfaction as they held their father's hand, exuding a sense of attachment. "Father, I have long forgiven you," Wongping whispered, gazing at the statue in his hands. On this snowy and windy night, a brilliant flash of lightning cut through the dark sky, shattering the astral wind layer in an instant. The thunderclap echoed across the entire Renegade Star. At that moment, even the snowflakes in the sky seemed to tremble, as if frozen in midair. Even the raging cold wind collapsed in that instant. In that split second, the cultivators of Renegade Star sensed the enormous aura, especially the thunder might within it, which resonated in the ears of every cultivator like 100 thunderclaps. Sun family's patriarch, Sun Shi, who had been in seclusion for many years, suddenly opened his eyes. In a flash, he appeared in the sky and looked down, his face darkening with an expression of extreme change. What immense immortal power! Terrifying thunder might! Sun Shi gasped, his pupils shrinking. Behind him, 8 cultivators of the Sun family's late infant metamorphosis stage appeared, with Sun Qiming standing at the forefront. He said in a deep voice, "Ancestor, this person seems to have ill intentions." The Ran family and Zhao family, though not as powerful as the Sun family, also reacted. Many of their top experts had long since passed away many years ago. In the Wang family mansion in Qishui City, Wong Lin set down the wine jug and looked up slightly. His eyes lacked any spark, resembling that of a true old man, filled with muddiness. He glanced briefly, then lowered his head and took a sip of wine. Above the sky, a giant beast radiating lightning stomped lightly. 2 electric dragons swirled from its nostrils, exuding an aura of incredible power. On its back sat a middle-aged man. He was none other than the Thunder Taoist from the Thunder Immortal Palace. His gaze was as sharp as lightning as he coldly swept over the land. His divine sense spread without restraint, instantly covering the entire Ranyun star, including Qishui City. Yet for some reason, when his divine sense passed over Wong Lin, it did not linger even for a moment. As his divine sense swept across, every cultivator on Ranyun star felt an intense mental shock. Even the demonic creatures on the planet shuddered, as if facing the might of heaven and earth. Even mortals are like this, but they are completely unaware of the reason. They simply feel a chill in their bodies, followed by a sudden shock to their minds, and then one by one, they lose consciousness, falling into a deep sleep without any awareness. In that instant, the entire Ranyun star fell into an unprecedented silence. After a moment, Thunder Taoist retracted his divine sense, furrowing his brows. He searched around, but couldn't find anyone who met the required criteria. As his divine sense withdrew, snowflakes began to fall again, and the cold wind picked up. It's been too long. Perhaps they've already left. This person is quite fortunate. Thunder Taoist murmured to himself for a moment before turning to leave. But at that very moment, his gaze suddenly sharpened, and his divine sense, like a flash of lightning, locked onto a small mountain village on Ranyun star. Qing Yi, upon feeling the sweep of the divine sense for the first time, immediately turned pale, her body uncontrollably trembling. Her spiritual energy almost collapsed, and it took a long while for her to regain some composure. Wongping froze for a moment, then looked up at Qing Yi and whispered, "Qing Yi, what's wrong?" Qing Yi was about to speak, but her expression changed drastically. She spat out blood, and a tremendous divine sense forcefully scattered the snowflakes and cold wind, directly descending upon them. The divine sense was so powerful that the entire ground seemed to tremble. The thick snow layer on the ground was instantly shaken loose. Outside the room, the snowflakes and cold wind, which had just regained momentum, shattered once again. It seemed as though Wongping's residence in the village had been isolated. Outside, the snow continued to fall, and the wind howled, but there was not a single trace of it near his house. It was as if, in that moment, all the wind and snow had been shattered. The nascent soul formed within Qing Yi struggled to release spiritual energy, allowing her body to step forward, standing in front of Wongping. Her face was aged, but her eyes revealed an indomitable struggle. "Interesting. You didn't faint." An icy voice echoed through the room. At the moment the voice appeared, the door of the room suddenly opened, and a middle-aged man stepped inside. The moment he entered the room, Qing Yi's face turned utterly white. She could feel an unimaginable aura coming from him, so powerful it seemed as though it could overwhelm the very heavens and earth, impossible to resist. In his presence, Qing Yi felt like an ant, as though with a mere thought, he could destroy countless versions of her, condemning her to eternal death with no place for burial. What made her pupils contract even further was the fact that this person also harbored a streak of lightning within him, flashes of lightning swirling around his body, making him seem like a thunder immortal. He casually stepped into the room, but the entire space crackled with the sound of thunder. Lightning traced along the walls, and in that instant, the room seemed to transform into a cage of lightning. If one were to look from the outside, they would see that Wongping's house had been surrounded by lightning. In the sky above, the thunder beast lay lazily in the void, its eyes filled with disdain, as if nothing in this world could catch its attention. Because it was the thunder beast, the sacred beast of the thunder immortal realm. Though its bloodline wasn't pure, and it was far from the legendary ancestor's power. Its pride ran deep in its bones. Wongping put down the wooden carving in his hand and stood up, walking toward Xun'er. He calmly looked at the middle-aged man who had entered the room and said, "Who are you?" At this moment, Wongping did not seem like a mere mortal. The calmness in his gaze was not feigned, it was real. He stood before Xun'er, like a man who could defy heaven and earth. All of this, he owed to his father, Wong Lin. 19 years of peace, 8 years of traveling through the vast world, and over 30 years as the mortal sovereign had given him a heart that feared nothing, not even heaven itself, let alone the cultivator in front of him. Xun'er stared blankly at Wongping's back. At that moment, this figure became etched in her heart forever. A deep affection rose in her eyes, and she casually let go of her cultivation, calmly looking at the middle-aged man who had entered. The middle-aged man glanced at Wongping with deep meaning. A strange light flickered in his eyes, as if he could see through Wongping completely. The reason he had sent his divine sense here was because, during his sweep, all the mortals had fainted, unconscious. This was because his cultivation was too strong, especially since it contained the might of thunder. The sweep of his divine sense had been like the overwhelming power of the heavens. But this mortal, standing before him, had not only failed to faint but appeared as though he had not noticed his divine sense at all. This piqued his interest, and so he locked onto this place. He spoke slowly. "Interesting. No wonder you didn't faint. So this is the reason." The moment the middle-aged man stepped into the room, far away in Shui City, tens of thousands of miles from here, Wong Lin, who had been sitting calmly on a chair and sipping from his wine flask, suddenly looked up. The flask in his right hand shattered, and the wine inside completely disintegrated in an instant, leaving not a single drop. As he looked up, a cold light that had not appeared in his eyes for over 70 years burst forth. This time, it was far more terrifying than when he had been at the tavern. It was as if there were no comparison, the difference as vast as heaven and earth. Before he could speak, Wongping trembled. At that moment, the shadow behind him suddenly moved. From beneath his feet, the immortal guard puppet materialized and almost immediately struck out with a punch. The punch created an explosive sound, and the air seemed to rumble, as if replacing the thunder itself, charging directly toward Thunder Taoist. Thunder Taoist's gaze sharpened. He had already noticed the puppet hidden deep within Wongping's shadow, and instead of surprise, he swiftly formed hand seals. Amidst flickering lightning, he struck out toward the immortal guard puppet's punch. The puppet's punch collided with the lightning, as if a sharp spear, quickly penetrating through it, completely ignoring the lightning, landing on Thunder Taoist's hand. Destructive force surged through the immortal guard's punch, ruthlessly entering Thunder Taoist's body, as if causing a storm inside him, rumbling loudly. With a muffled sound, Thunder Taoist staggered, stepping back a pace, his hands numb, and the lightning dispersed. A strange gleam appeared in his eyes as he stared at the puppet, laughing loudly. A supreme puppet. The immortal guard puppet took 2 steps back, its gaze cold. Lightning coursed over its body, like silver serpents writhing and darting through the air. Laughing, Thunder Taoist stepped forward. As he lifted his foot, electric light from the surrounding walls surged and quickly condensed around his foot. With a powerful stomp, it felt as though the entire world was collapsing in that instant. The house immediately vanished, leaving no trace. A ring of electric light formed, rapidly spreading in all directions, with Wongping at the center. The immortal guard puppet's cold gaze deepened as it stepped forward, punching. But the lightning waves were too vast for it to handle all at once. Just as the lightning was about to reach Wongping, Xun'er, standing behind him, remained calm, holding his hand, her eyes filled with tenderness as she gazed at him. Wongping, however, showed no signs of panic. His expression remained as unshaken as if Mount Tai were collapsing before him, for he knew that his father would surely come. In his eyes, his father was the strongest being under the starry sky. No one could resist him. Wongping's calmness made Thunder Taoist glance at him curiously, seemingly seeing something. The electric waves, accompanied by a rumbling sound, raced toward Wongping. But just as the lightning was about to strike, an ancient voice echoed slowly through the heavens. The voice was laden with a deep sense of antiquity, and as it reached the surroundings, the violent electric waves, like roaring dragons, suddenly froze. The blue lightning, almost alive, seemed to extend toward Wongping's chest, but it suddenly halted. The voice only spoke one word: freeze. A massive vortex appeared in the void, and from within, an elderly figure with white hair slowly emerged, his steps deliberate. As he walked through the void, he reached Wongping's side. With a casual gesture, his right hand touched the frozen lightning waves. A series of cracking sounds echoed as cracks spread throughout the ring of lightning in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the lightning waves collapsed completely. The scene happened so suddenly that Thunder Taoist sucked in a breath and took 2 steps back, his expression grave as he stared fixedly at Wong Lin, caution written on his face. He couldn't see through the other's cultivation. Though his eyes could see, his divine sense couldn't detect the old man, as if he didn't exist at all. "Father." Wongping stared at the elderly figure before him and softly spoke. This single word carried decades of longing. The elderly figure was none other than Wong Lin. His previously dim eyes now gleamed with cold light, a gaze that had not been seen in years. "Thunder Immortal Palace, emissary." Wong Lin spoke slowly. The Immortal Guard puppet shifted, standing next to Wong Lin, its cold gaze locked on Thunder Taoist. Thunder Taoist stared at Wong Lin, his expression solemn, and asked, "Who are you?" Wong Lin glanced around. Despite the enormous commotion, no villagers appeared in the village. Clearly, they had all been rendered unconscious by this man's divine sense sweep earlier. He waved his right hand, and immediately a soft light enveloped Wongping and Xun'er. At the same time, he stepped forward, and in an instant, he led the 2 of them out of sight. The Immortal Guard followed closely behind, vanishing as well. Thunder Taoist's face darkened, and with a cold snort, he also stepped forward, disappearing. In the western part of Ranyun Star, on a vast and desolate plain, Wong Lin stepped out of the void. Wongping and Xun'er also appeared within the soft light. At the same time, a flicker of thunder appeared 100 feet ahead, and Thunder Taoist emerged. As soon as he stepped out, a large amount of lightning appeared around him, and the entire sky darkened. Thick clouds gathered, with lightning dancing inside, looking terrifying. "Whoever you are, leave behind this puppet, and I will spare the 3 of you." Thunder Taoist's voice was cold as he fixed his gaze on Wong Lin and spoke slowly. A cold gleam intensified in Wong Lin's eyes. He said flatly, "Even if you spare me, I won't spare you. If I had arrived a step later, my son would have died at your hands. This matter has touched my reverse scales. No matter who you are, you will die today." His voice was firm, and a chilling murderous aura suddenly surged. At the same time, the Immortal Guard puppet stepped out of the void. In an instant, the puppet shone with golden light, resembling a golden statue, charging toward Thunder Taoist. The golden light was blinding as it struck with a punch. Thunder Taoist slapped his storage pouch, and a lightning net appeared in his hand. With a quick seal, he stretched it forward. In an instant, the net expanded infinitely, as if becoming the heavens and earth. It shrank rapidly, enveloping the Immortal Guard puppet. The lightning net shimmered with countless talismanic symbols, extremely tough. As it shrank, the Immortal Guard puppet's fist couldn't even shatter it. "As an emissary of the Thunder Immortal Palace, with your power, even with this puppet, it is impossible to kill me." After throwing the lightning net, Thunder Taoist didn't even glance at it. He formed a seal with both hands, and a bolt of thunder suddenly transformed and shot straight toward Wong Lin. Wong Lin's expression remained unchanged. He didn't dodge the lightning at all. At the moment the lightning approached, he inhaled deeply. Thunder Taoist stared in astonishment as the lightning was completely absorbed into Wong Lin's body. Crackling arcs of electricity danced around Wong Lin's body, making a popping sound. This bit of lightning power is not enough. Wong Lin raised his right hand, and immediately a portion of his primordial spirit separated and merged into it. In the blink of an eye, a lightning sphere appeared in the palm of his hand. Though the lightning sphere was only the size of a fist, as soon as it appeared, it caused the dark clouds in the sky to swirl violently. All the lightning within the clouds went into a frenzy, surging like countless lightning dragons, heading straight for the sphere in Wong Lin's hand. At this sight, Thunder Taoist gasped. His eyes widened as he saw the sky full of lightning, as if it was being drawn in by the sphere. It looked like a thunderstorm, and at its center was the sphere in Wong Lin's palm. This is real thunder. Wong Lin's voice remained calm. He waved his right hand forward, and the lightning sphere, with a tremendous roar, sped toward Thunder Taoist. Thunder Taoist's face changed dramatically. Without hesitation, he quickly retreated, slapping his storage pouch. Immediately, a 3-meter-long, 1-inch thick black iron rod appeared in his hand. The rod was covered with talismanic inscriptions, and a dark red fine line crisscrossed along its surface. As the lightning sphere approached, Thunder Taoist swung the rod, plunging it fiercely into the ground. At the same time, he formed a seal with his hands, continuously casting marks on the rod. Heaven's thunder absorbed. Thunder Taoist's eyes focused, and he shouted. The lightning sphere charged forward with immense speed, but it was immediately redirected by the iron rod, heading straight toward it. The massive lightning power quickly spread throughout the rod. Lightning crackled on the rod, and all the talismans lit up as if they were rapidly absorbing the energy. However, the lightning power in the sphere was too strong. After a single breath, the rod made a cracking sound, and cracks appeared on its surface. At that moment, the dark red lines along the cracks seemed to flow, as if they were bonding the rod together, preventing it from shattering. The thunderous sound from the sphere was overwhelming, and despite the lightning being absorbed, it still violently impacted the rod. In that instant, the cracks on the rod spread rapidly, almost instantly engulfing the entire rod. The red fine lines seemed to cover it completely. Thunder Taoist stared in disbelief at the scene before him. At that moment, it seemed that the rod could no longer withstand the enormous lightning power. After absorbing all the lightning from the sphere, it trembled slightly, and, under Thunder Taoist's gaze, suddenly shattered. It was as if countless thunderclaps rang out across the heavens and earth. The entire Ranyun star shook violently, and many famous mountains and peaks collapsed, with the mountains roaring. As the iron rod exploded, the massive lightning power was released, and Thunder Taoist was caught in the blast, retreating more than 10 steps. His face turned pale as he stared at Wong Lin and shouted, You're Su Mu, the one who impersonated me as the emissary of the Thunder Immortal Palace. What cultivation level are you at? Under the release of Thunder Force, the Thunder Net that had trapped the Immortal Guard instantly vanished, and the Immortal Guard stepped out. Wong Lin calmly gazed at Thunder Taoist and slowly spoke. My cultivation. He paused, and suddenly, his immortal power erupted from within, rising from the foundation establishment stage all the way to the spirit transformation stage, before condensing again, reaching the peak of infant metamorphosis. But it didn't stop there. As his immortal power continued to surge, his cultivation level rose again, reaching the early peak of the quest for the Tao stage. As Wong Lin's immortal power surged, Thunder Taoist's expression darkened more and more. Although he looked down on cultivators at the first step, this elder before him was constantly increasing in cultivation, and Thunder Taoist couldn't predict how far it would go. The early peak of the quest for the Tao stage wasn't the end. With the explosive surge of Wong Lin's immortal power, his cultivation level ascended again, reaching the mid-peak of the quest for the Tao stage. His immortal power gradually stabilized, staying at the mid-peak of the quest for the Tao stage. Yet, the aura around Wong Lin grew stronger, with no signs of slowing down. This aura emanated from his artistic conception. The artistic conception of the mid-peak of the quest for the Tao stage seemed endless, as it ascended, intensifying. The aura generated from this artistic conception grew thicker and thicker, making Thunder Taoist's face darker. The ascension of this artistic conception seemed to have no end. It broke through the typical limits of the quest for the Tao stage, climbing wildly. At this moment, Wong Lin's white hair fluttered without wind, and his deep contemplation grew even stronger. A tremendous aura spread out from Wong Lin, enveloping the surrounding area and slowly covering the entire Ranyun star. The artistic conception, as it continuously released, reached the late peak of the quest for the Tao stage, but it didn't stop. It kept going. At this moment, Thunder Taoist felt his eyelids twitch. He could hardly breathe. A sense of dread surged in his heart. But then, he noticed that the artistic conception seemed to have slowed down. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and muttered to himself. A cultivator at the first step should be easy to kill. But could he really be just like this? Suddenly, a massive landscape painting appeared in the sky, as if the heavens themselves were the canvas and the earth the ink. It shimmered like a mirage. In this landscape, the yellow spring began to emerge, flowing slowly. However, the next moment, the landscape and the yellow spring in the sky suddenly flickered and were sucked into Wong Lin's Tianling crown and vanished. Wong Lin's artistic conception, which had slightly paused under Thunder Daoist shock, erupted again, reaching the peak of the late peak of the quest for the Dao stage. The artistic conception stopped here. Thunder Daoist let out a sigh of relief. He was truly worried that Wong Lin's artistic conception might break through the first step of cultivation. If that happened, with his puppet's help, today would surely be a fierce battle. This little cultivation level, and he dares to impersonate a Thunder Immortal Palace emissary. Thunder Daoist sneered. But deep down, he was filled with doubt, especially after witnessing the Thunder Orb released by Sumu. It was just too extraordinary. Such thunder abilities were not something an ordinary cultivator could possess. He had only seen it on the Earth-level emissaries of the Thunder Immortal Palace. There was another thing that made him doubt. Earlier, when he swept his divine sense, he hadn't detected this person's presence at all. Even now, though he could clearly see his cultivation level, it still felt like there was a layer of fog, as if looking at the moon through water. Wong Lin looked up. Though his immortal power was limited, leaving him at the stable mid-stage, his artistic conception had, unknowingly, reached such heights. This was somewhat unexpected for Wong Lin. Moreover, he had only released the artistic conception of life and death reincarnation, while the Thunder Might and Karmic Cycle artistic conceptions within his divine soul had not been released. As for why Thunder Daoist couldn't see through Wong Lin's cultivation, this was because of the trace of the Karmic Cycle. Wong Lin's artistic conception, under evolution, made it impossible for anyone below the second step of cultivation to discern the truth. The yin-yang void and reality were merely a transition between the first and second steps. Wongping stared blankly at his father ahead. As his father's cultivation level surged, a faint ripple appeared within his own body, transmitting clearly into his soul, making his earlier suspicions even more intense. Wongping fell silent and nodded. Thunder Daoist's face darkened, his gaze fixed on Wong Lin. "Old man, let me show you what it truly means to be a Thunder Immortal Palace emissary." He raised his right hand, pointed to the sky, and shouted, "Thunder Immortal Beast." From the boundless sky, countless bolts of thunder began to surge. These thunderbolts seemed to occupy the entire sky. At this moment, they began to gather and shrink rapidly, forming a giant thunder orb directly above Thunder Daoist. A booming thunderclap echoed, reverberating continuously. The sound was filled with authority, causing anyone who heard it to be struck with a powerful tremor. At this moment, all the cultivators on Ranyun's star, who had previously been struggling under Thunder Daoist's divine sense, no matter where they were, heard the thunderous sound. Their minds shook, and their spiritual energy began to surge uncontrollably. The thunder orb flickered and rapidly contracted, finally transforming into a mighty and exceptional thunder beast. This thunder beast is incredibly formidable, with lightning spewing from its nostrils like a swirling dragon. In its enormous eyes, there is a sense of pride, as though it is the most noble thing in the world. However, when its gaze fell upon Wong Lin, it paused for a moment, a trace of confusion flickering in its eyes. Thunder Daoist looked at Wong Lin and said calmly, "It is precisely because of the Thunder Beast that one can be called an emissary of the Thunder Immortal Palace. The crime of impersonation means the extermination of your clan." Wong Lin glanced at the Thunder Beast and slowly said, "Without a thunder horn, how can it be called a Thunder Beast?" He slapped his storage pouch, and the god-shooting chariot immediately transformed into a burst of thunderous light. A force, seemingly capable of destroying the heavens and earth, spread through the thunderous glow. A massive beast, filled with the power of thunder, slowly emerged from the radiance. Its shape resembled a qilin, but it was not exactly a qilin. On its head was a single silver horn, flashing with electric light, crackling with energy. The moment it emerged, Thunder Daoist's expression instantly changed. It was the most shocked he had been since arriving on Ranyan's star. The shock was so great that he stood frozen, staring at the giant beast, unable to speak. The Thunder Beast from the Thunder Immortal Palace hovering above him also suddenly exploded with lightning, staring fixedly at the giant beast. Its hooves lightly stomped, exuding a brutal aura. The giant beast from the god-shooting chariot raised its head and let out a mighty roar. Suddenly, the sky rumbled with thunder, and bolts of lightning immediately struck down. This was not a heavenly tribulation, but a manifestation of the beast's divine abilities. The Thunder Beast of the Thunder Immortal Palace released a burst of lightning from its nostrils, seemingly unable to bear the force, and also roared towards the sky. Wong Lin's Thunder Beast's eyes flashed with coldness. When Thunder Beasts meet, without their master controlling them, it would instantly become a battle to the death. This was unlike any other immortal beast. A flash of lightning surged beneath Wong Lin's Thunder Beast's feet. Without hesitation, it charged forward, roaring as it lunged toward the Thunder Beast of the Thunder Immortal Palace. The Thunder Beast's eyes showed panic. Its bloodline was impure, but it could clearly sense the immense power of its opponent. Yet, the dignity of its soul would not allow it to retreat. It roared again and charged forward. The thunderous roars of the two Thunder Beasts clashed violently in battle. At this moment, it was as if the world itself trembled, and everything fell into darkness. This is the silver-horned Thunder Beast. Thunder Daoist's gaze fell upon the silver horn on Wong Lin's Thunder Beast, his eyes filled with shock. Possessing a Thunder Beast, skilled in lightning divine abilities, a bitter expression appeared on Thunder Daoist's face. If it weren't for his orders to investigate this matter, and if he hadn't been so certain that the Thunder Immortal Palace had not sent an emissary here 70 years ago, he would have thought that Wong Lin was also an emissary of the Thunder Immortal Palace. Silver-horned Thunder Beasts were rare within the Thunder Immortal Palace. Only a few celestial envoys had them. If he could obtain one, his status in the Thunder Immortal Palace would certainly rise significantly. He stared at the horn on the Thunder Beast's head, and a greedy look flashed in his eyes. His gaze then fixed on Wong Lin. Without wasting any more words, he immediately formed a hand seal. When he pulled his hands apart, electric light flickered wildly, and a silver-long sword took shape from the sparks. The electric light danced as Thunder Daoist extended his right hand and pointed forward. In an instant, the silver-long sword transformed into a streak of lightning, rushing toward the immortal guard puppet. As long as I kill this person, this masterless Thunder Beast will be mine. Thunder Daoist threw out the flying sword, then stepped forward, extending his hands and shouting, "Thunder Immortal Tribulation." A bolt of purple lightning suddenly manifested on his palm, forming an electric net that crackled with thunder. It surged toward Wong Lin as he moved. Wong Lin's expression remained calm, but his pupils contracted slightly. Thunder Daoist, indeed, was a Yin deficiency cultivator, his immortal power vast, and his mastery over lightning was extraordinary. This person's intent is most likely related to lightning. A cold glint flashed in Wong Lin's eyes. His right hand tapped his storage pouch, and a golden immortal brush appeared in his grasp. Holding the immortal brush, Wong Lin waved it through the air before him. A single talismanic symbol suddenly appeared. Without pausing, he continued to draw at an incredible speed, 7 strokes completed in the blink of an eye. 7 strokes was the limit. With every stroke, a part of his nascent soul split off and merged with the talisman. By the time the 7th stroke was completed, 7 strands of his nascent soul had been separated. Having devoured half of the primordial thunder dragon, Wong Lin's nascent soul had mutated. Now, as the 7 strands merged into the talisman, the golden light vanished, replaced by white lightning that crackled on the talisman. Not only did it carry the aura of an immortal, but it also exuded the terrifying pressure of heavenly thunder. As the symbol formed, crisp popping sounds echoed as lightning coursed across it. An overwhelming, vast power surged from it, like a storm ready to burst forth. The oppressive force was the true might of thunder might, far surpassing any other thunder-related divine abilities. As the power of the heavenly thunder spread, even the thunder beasts engaged in battle nearby stopped, turning their attention here. With their sensitivity to thunder, They clearly sensed that within the runes, there was a trace of the aura of the primordial heavenly thunder. This primordial heavenly thunder came from the primordial thunder dragon. At that time, the existence of the primordial thunder dragon was to execute the rite of thunder on behalf of the Tao of heaven. Now, this rite, as Wong Lin devoured half of the thunder dragon, gradually merged into his Yuan soul. It could even be said that Wong Lin's Yuan soul's thunder power transcended all thunder might in the world. If Thunder Taoist were to use other spells, it wouldn't matter, but if he were to cast a thunder-based divine ability, he had no chance of victory in front of Wong Lin. Even though his cultivation was high, his level, unless he reached the true second step, was still not enough. Wong Lin had an absolute advantage in regards to thunder, and no thunder divine ability in the world could harm him. In fact, to put it another way, Wong Lin was the living primordial thunder dragon in this world. With 7 brush strokes, Wong Lin's brush moved forward, and the runes instantly shot out like thunder, heading straight for Thunder Taoist. Thunder Taoist's expression darkened as he gritted his teeth, suddenly unleashing a purple thunder from his palm, which collided with the runes. Boom! The runes shattered, transforming into an endless force, with Wong Lin's 7 Yuan souls directly imprinted onto Thunder Taoist's body. The purple thunder in Thunder Taoist's hand suddenly collapsed, and he spat out a mouthful of blood as his body was struck as if by a violent storm, retreating wildly. Boom! 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 Each explosion reverberated through Thunder Taoist's body, with 1 Yuan soul after another echoing within him. He continuously spat out blood, his body retreating step by step. By the time the final Yuan soul echoed through his body, Thunder Taoist's face turned pale, and he had retreated over 100 feet. The terror in his eyes was overwhelming. This was the first time in his life that he had been defeated by a thunder-based divine ability. He even had a sense that, compared to his opponent, the person before him, Sumu, was the true Thunder Immortal Palace emissary, while he was the fake. This sense of disarray caused him to take a deep breath, his expression growing even darker. Wong Lin silently sighed. This Thunder Taoist was indeed a Yin deficiency cultivator, as under the runes, he had only been injured without any fundamental disruption. The celestial power in his body was too dense, and within this celestial power, there was a trace of the world's primordial energy, which caused the thunder that entered his body to be continuously dissipated by this primordial energy. You are very strong. You've been living in seclusion on Ranyan Star, I suppose for comprehension. If you were given another 100 years, you might become even stronger. If your cultivation were the same as mine, I would definitely die today. But unfortunately, your cultivation is still stuck at the first step of cultivation. Thunder Taoist took a deep breath, and his internal injuries surprisingly healed instantly. But Wong Lin clearly noticed that the world's primordial energy inside him seemed to have diminished slightly. I ask you one last time. Hand over the silver-horned thunder beast and the puppet, and I'll let you go. Otherwise, you will die today. What I've used so far are just ordinary divine abilities, but if you refuse to listen, next, I will use a unique primordial energy spell for second-step cultivators. You won't be able to resist, Thunder Taoist said in a deep voice. Wong Lin remained calm, slapping his storage pouch. A large sword appeared in his hand, the tip pointing downward as he calmly spoke. Make your move. Let me see the primordial energy divine abilities of a Yin deficiency cultivator. Whether it was the patriarch of the Phantom Clan, Thousand Sunflower, or the Thunder Taoist before him, Wong Lin had noticed one thing in all 3, primordial energy. Clearly, this primordial energy was the key to second-step cultivators. This battle could be considered Wong Lin's first time fighting directly against a Yin deficiency cultivator. The powerful recovery ability of a Yin deficiency cultivator made Wong Lin's heart grow heavy. Thunder Taoist gazed past over Wong Lin and landed on Wongping and Xun'er behind him. A strange light flickered in his eyes as he slowly spoke. For a dead person, you gave up on your comprehension. This, I truly don't understand. Shut up. Wong Lin suddenly raised his head, his eyes turning red, and slowly lifted his sword, coldly saying,